Have you noticed how some people love to test your boundaries? They interrupt, they talk over you, they make those little passive-aggressive comments that sting, even though they're delivered with a smile. And here's the kicker. Once you hit a certain age, it seems like people think you're just going to let it slide. They assume you're too nice, too tired, or too polite to say anything, that you'll just smile and swallow it because what's the point in making a fuss, right? Well, not today, because if you're tired of being disrespected, dismissed, or treated like your time, energy, or feelings don't matter, this one's for you. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 brutally honest but totally calm ways to handle disrespect like a grown adult. These aren't about yelling or snapping back. They're about confidence, control, and reclaiming your peace. So if you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, why didn't I say something? Or why do I let them treat me like that? Stick around. By the end of this, you'll have a whole new toolkit to protect your energy, set firm boundaries, and handle people who cross the line without ever raising your voice. Let's dive in. The silent stare. We're starting off with one of my favorite slightly savage techniques. It's called the silent stare. And yes, I'm serious. When someone is being openly rude or disrespectful, whether they're interrupting you, talking over you, or throwing backhanded compliments, one of the most powerful things you can do is nothing. Just look at them, calm, still, completely unbothered. Now I know what you might be thinking. Really? That's it? Yes, that's it. And here's why it works. Disrespectful people are usually fishing for a reaction. They want to get under your skin. They want you flustered. They want to feel like they have the upper hand. But when you just look at them, no blinking, no fidgeting, no forced smile, it throws them completely off. It flips the script. Suddenly, they're the ones squirming. You've handed them nothing to work with, and it's powerful. Let me tell you a quick story. I was in a group conversation once, and this one guy, loud, opinionated, thought he was the smartest person in the room, kept cutting me off. Every time I tried to speak, he'd jump in louder, like his voice mattered more. I could have snapped. I could have raised my voice. But instead, I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and looked him dead in the eye. 5 full seconds. No blinking, no smile, just calm, steady silence. And the best part, everyone else turned and looked at him too. He stumbled through his next sentence, avoided eye contact, and guess what? He didn't interrupt me again. That silent stare said everything I needed it to, without saying a word. You don't always need to raise your voice to stand your ground. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is be completely still and let them feel the weight of their own behavior. Silence is an answer. Here's something that took me way too long to learn. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is a weapon. When someone disrespects you, throws a jab, makes a snide comment, tries to embarrass you in front of others, your instinct might be to fire back or explain yourself. But what if you didn't? There is something deeply uncomfortable for the other person when you don't play their game. When their insult or dig floats out into the room and just sits there. No reaction, no explanation, no defense, just silence. I remember once someone made a joke about my age at a family dinner. You know the type. One of those comments that's technically a joke, but meant to take a little jab. I could have tried to laugh it off. I could have clapped back with something clever, but instead, I just raised an eyebrow and said absolutely nothing. I let it go. And in that silence, something shifted. They fidgeted, looked around, mumbled something about just kidding. They were the only one who looked uncomfortable because they were the only one who should have. That moment was a turning point for me because silence isn't passive, it's a choice. It says, I don't owe you my energy. It says, your words don't even deserve a response. It puts the responsibility for awkwardness back where it belongs, on the person who created it. And it's not about playing games or being cold. It's about knowing when to protect your peace. When you choose silence, you're saying, I don't need to defend my worth to someone who never saw it in the first place. So the next time someone tries to get a rise out of you, let it hang. Watch how loud that silence becomes. This next one might hit a little close to home. Stop explaining yourself. Seriously, just stop. How many times have you made a perfectly reasonable decision only to be met with, "Why would you do that?" Or, "You really think that's a good idea?" And what do? We explain. We talk ourselves in circles trying to justify our choices to people who weren't listening to understand. They were listening to judge. But here's the truth. Your life is not a group project. You don't owe anyone a PowerPoint presentation every time you make a choice that's different, inconvenient, or hard for them to accept. And honestly, the people who demand explanations are often the ones who are most uncomfortable with your independence, your boldness, your peace, because it challenges them. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I decided to sell my house and move into a smaller place that better suited my lifestyle. I wanted simplicity, less upkeep, less stress, more freedom. But oh boy, everyone had an opinion. Why would you leave that neighborhood? Aren't you going to be lonely? What if you regret it? At first, I found myself answering every question, trying to explain, reassure, defend my choices. Until one day, I just said, "Because I wanted to," and then I stopped talking. That one sentence shut it down faster than any explanation ever could. And here's what I realized. Confidence is quiet. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't seek permission. So if someone asks you why you're not going to the event, or why you made that career move, or why you're spending your retirement your way, try this. Because I wanted to. Because it felt right. Because I can. And then stop. Let the silence do the rest. You don't need to shrink your life to fit someone else's comfort zone. You're not here to make other people feel better about your choices. You're here to live, and you don't need to explain that to anybody. Protect your peace with distance. Let me say something that might ruffle a few feathers. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Read that again if you need to. Just because someone's been around a long time, family, childhood friend, coworker, neighbor, doesn't mean they've earned lifetime access to your energy. Sometimes the best way to deal with people who consistently disrespect you is to step back. Not with a dramatic confrontation, not with a big speech, just with space. Now I get it, especially for those of us who were raised to be loyal, polite, forgiving. It feels wrong to create distance. We think, what if they think I'm being rude? Or what if they get mad? But let me ask you this. How many times have you sacrificed your peace just to keep the peace? I had a friend once, been in my life for over 20 years, who had a habit of slipping little jabs into every conversation about my weight, my job, my relationships, always masked as a joke. Just teasing, they'd say. But I started realizing that after every hangout, I felt drained, small, defensive, and one day I just stopped showing up. I didn't block them. I didn't send a fiery goodbye text. I just stopped being available for the energy that made me question myself. And you know what? I felt lighter, freer, happier. Sometimes distance is the only way to protect your mental health, because disrespect, even in small doses, adds up. It chips away at your confidence, your mood, your self-worth. So if someone in your life is making you feel small more often than they lift you up, it's okay to step back. You don't owe everyone access. That's not selfish. That's called boundaries. And boundaries are a form of love for yourself. So the next time you feel guilty about pulling away from someone who constantly drains you, remember this. You're not walking away to hurt them. You're walking away to heal you. Hold your head high. Let's bring it home with one final habit, one that may sound simple but carries more power than you think. Now, I know that sounds like something your grandma used to say, but I'm telling you this one. It's a game changer. When someone disrespects you, they're not just trying to throw shade. They're trying to make you shrink, to doubt yourself, to look down, to apologize for taking up space. But when you stand tall, shoulders back, eyes forward, you're sending a message. You're saying, I know who I am, and you don't get to define me. I remember walking into a gathering once where someone I didn't particularly care for had made some pretty rude comments about me behind my back. And believe me, I wanted to avoid them, hide out near the appetizers, maybe just disappear altogether. but I didn't. I walked in like I owned the place, head high, calm, composed, unbothered. And you know what? They backed off. Because confidence is unsettling to people who thrive on control. They don't know what to do when you refuse to shrink. This isn't about arrogance. It's about self-respect. It's about living in a way that says, I am worthy, I am whole, and your opinion doesn't change that. Every time you hold your head high, you're modeling to others how you expect to be treated. And more importantly, you're reminding yourself that you don't have to explain, defend, or diminish who you are for anyone. So the next time someone tries to make you feel less than, straighten your spine, lift your chin, walk tall. You've earned it. So there you have it. 5 quiet, powerful ways to handle disrespect without losing your cool or your self-respect. Because you don't have to raise your voice to raise your standards. You just have to decide what you'll no longer tolerate. And then hold that line with calm, quiet confidence. If this video gave you even one tool, one moment of, yes, that's exactly what I needed, then I've got more waiting for you. Click on the playlist linked below. It's full of powerful, practical tips for seniors who are ready to stop playing small and start owning their lives again. And hey, thank you for spending your time with me today. If this message hit home, leave a comment, share your story, or just say hello. I read every single one. Until next time, take care, stay strong, and remember, respect starts with you.